So now we understand why live effects are called live effects, because they don't affect the underlying path structure, they only affect the appearance of a particular object, which means that as you make changes to that underlying structure, those changes now are reflected in the actual final appearance of that object. However, there may be times when you actually want to see the path structure changing based on the appearance that you've made. Let's take a look at an example of where that would be important. I'm working in that same appearances file. I just reopened the file again. I'm going to select that object right now, and let's go ahead and leave the regular fill and stroke that's set right now, and let's apply a different type of effect to this object. For example, I'm going to go over here and choose to add a new effect, and rather than choose 3D, let's go ahead and choose Distort and Transform, and maybe I'll choose one here called Twist. Twist basically allows me, I'll choose a preview here, to specify an angle. Let's say do 45 degrees, for example, and makes it look like that object was twisted on that 45-degree angle. It's kind of like a tornado, which is kind of like spinning around, and it kind of distorted or twisted that particular shape there. If I went, let's say, for example, to 90 degrees, see how it kind of flips it that particular way? It kind of does that little twist to it. So I now have created that. If I click OK, remember that what I've just done now is I've changed the appearance to look as if it's twisted. However, if I look at the actual underlying path, I will see that it's not. If I go to the View menu and I choose Outline, I see the path that's here. In fact, I'm going to choose Preview for a minute here. You don't have to go to Preview mode. If you do have Smart Guides turned on, for example, I'll go to View and choose Show Smart Guides here, then as you mouse over the shape, you'll see that the actual path itself is what highlights, but not the appearance itself. So that helps you identify that this particular effect is the appearance that's applied to it, but the underlying path is right over here. But let's say you're working in a particular situation where you want to make some kind of modification to this path itself. You want to maybe tweak it just a little bit, but because this is an appearance, you can't select this part of the path. You can only work with the actual vector path that's here. In this case, what you want to do is you want to basically take that live effect and expand it so that you have the ability to edit the paths itself. Doing so makes the effect no longer a live effect, but you can almost think of it as making it a dead effect, meaning that you want to take the physical appearance of the object and use that as the path, and not the underlying original path structure. To do that, simply select the object itself, go to the Object menu, and choose this option here called Expand Appearance. When you do so, you'll notice that right now, take a look at my Appearance panel, I have a group, which we'll talk more about groups in the next chapter, but what I have now is a single shape inside of that group, but now I have the anchor points in the path itself on that twisted object. And that twist effect is no longer available to me inside of the Appearance panel because the twist effect is no longer here. It's not an appearance that's been changed anymore. The actual appearance has been converted to and modified the underlying path. Should I go now into the outline mode, you'll see that the path itself exists in this twisted state. So I'll go back to preview mode. And now you have this understanding of where appearances fit now inside of your workflow. As you're working by default and you're adding effects, effects are live. They don't affect the underlying shape of the object, but they do affect the overall appearance of that object. However, in times when you do want your particular effects to be applied to the object itself, you go ahead and you expand them. Let me give you a practical example of where this makes sense. I'll delete the shape overall completely, and I'll take a regular rectangle, and I'll draw a rectangle on my screen. It doesn't make a difference what size we create. I just want to create a rectangle here. I'll use the default one-point stroke and a white fill here. I'm going to go to the Effect menu here. I'm going to go ahead and choose Stylize. I'm going to apply this setting here called Round Corners. This one actually, if I click on the preview button here, apply rounded corners to this rectangle. Maybe do something a little bit bigger so we can see what it looks like. Let's say 25 right here. So you see now that I've had these rounded corners here, but these rounded corners are applied as an effect. I can't actually select a rounded corner and make a change to one of them. For example, maybe I wanted one of these corners not to be a rounded corner, but I can't do that because the rounded corner effect just applies to the shape overall. If I go into outline mode, I'm going to press Command Y on my Mac or Control Y on the PC to see that the actual path itself has not been affected as live effects do, and I have the regular original rectangle here. But the appearance of it, it looks like it has rounded corners. But like I said before, if I wanted to access that, I would need to now expand that appearance. I'm going to go to the Object menu with that object selected, choose Expand Appearance. Now I have the actual anchor points here, and if I wanted to make an adjustment to the way that these particular anchor points were, I can adjust these particular points as I want to, in this particular way, making some adjustments as I want to here. So in order for me to make that change, though, I needed to first expand my appearance so that I can get at those underlying vectors that way. Remember, I had to now change the underlying structure of that path.